Alright, so I'm here with B Flat, man.
Yeah.
For people that don't know you, just explain, like what do you do? Like what's your career title? Like what do you do?
If I make it as simple as career title, then that'll be music producer and studio engineer.
Okay.
But it's maybe three different hats. Even saying that, number one, music producer, maybe that's a little straightforward. But if I say studio engineer, that means I'm a recording engineer. I record people's songs, and help arrange records. And then I'm also a mix engineer, and that's a totally different world. You know what I'm saying? When you consider it, of course, it's a close cousin to it, but yeah, that's the day-to-day operation right there. You
We're
know what I'm
finna
saying?
get into all of that.
Yeah.
But first, your name. For people that don't know, where did that name come about?
B flat. Ooh man, I don't know if everybody experienced this. I started doing music, actually being an artist and stuff too, aside from me producing. But I probably went through 1,000 names, like maybe 2,000, and most of them was names that people kind of gave me, just based on what they saw me doing and what I was doing with my gifts and stuff. And none of them really stuck. I used a couple of them, but it was one day I was learning, I guess, the keys on the piano, trying to figure my way through scales and stuff like that. And I just came across, you got A's, B, C, D, all that kind of stuff. And B, and I saw B, and I saw that there was I remembered at the time that there was a lot of sharps, you know what I'm saying, to certain lettered notes. And when I came across B, I was like, oh, what about B sharp? That sounds cool, but there is no B sharp on the joint or whatever. But either way, even if there was, I was like, oh, that sounds a little pompous. Like I'm just, like I'm saying, like I am just like, whatever adjective you can apply there. But B flat, I was like, nah, that actually just had it just rang better. You know what I'm saying? So I just stuck with that. And once I started using it, that was the first time that people responded to a name after all the 2,000 I had tried before. That's the first time they responded to one that was like, oh no, that's fire, because your name's Brian, like your first name. So that's what made it make sense to me, you know what I'm saying? But it was the most natural of all those 2,000 names that I tried. It was just like, nah, this is the one. It'll stick. Yeah. And I went through a lot of stuff with that name, actually, because I used to spell it a lot differently. And the way that I used to spell it, I almost don't even want to say it, but the way that I used to spell it, somebody else did too. They spelled their name the same way. Didn't know about them. I'd been using the name for 3 or 4 years at that time. And yeah, I got a cease and desist one day from somebody who was using it.
Like in the mail?
Yeah, well, it was in my email because that's all they had on me at the time, but it was legit. They had went and run and got their trademark like 2 weeks prior to it to make sure, but they cut me at the knees with that particular spelling. But it was like, you can't respell it. You got to totally rebrand yourself. That's what their intention was behind that cease and desist and everything. So yeah, you learn a lot through something like that too.
Yeah.
A whole lot. Yeah. Let me get my stuff straight. I can't just be out here just, not for lack of better words, playing, but I need to just make sure all my I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and I do the business part too. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I learned early on.
Right.
So yeah, but it was for the better, I suppose. Because at the time, what I did find through that is that if I typed my name in on Google at that time, boom, 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 the way it was spelled, this person, stuff will pop up, then mine, then theirs, then mine. It was like 6 pages on Google of just constant back and forth results. So it might have caused a bit of confusion maybe, but at the same time, we was in 2 totally different industries. But on their trademark, they did specify, musician, producer, artist, all that kind of stuff, just to make sure I was just like obliterated. Wow. And it gave me so much fire after that. I did. Because it's starting over, that's what it seemed like. I knew I wasn't literally doing it, but if somebody was used to spelling my name a certain way and trying to find me online or whatever, if they did it, subsequent to that issue, they wouldn't find me. It seemed as though I was starting over from zero, you know what I'm saying? And essentially I did have to, but it was all good. Gotcha. It was all, and it's still gonna be all good. I'm looking at the camera because they see me. It's still gonna be all good.
So let's talk about your start, like how you got started. Like, when did you find out you had a gift? Like, how did you get into music? Like, all that.
It's a simple explanation, but I think no, it's not. So I have to kind of think about 2 different things. Number one was the first time I found a keyboard underneath the couch that my mom had bought me, and I ain't found out till later that she bought it I just thought it was just there, and I found it. But after I told this story the first time, she came and called me, and she was like, "Oh, you got that wrong. That was your keyboard. I bought that for you when you was a child. You just didn't care nothing about it." And then I was just playing around, rolling around on the floor one day, and I was in elementary school. Just
I was
can't.
going to say, how old was
Yeah,
this?
I just can't remember which grade necessarily, but it was at least. It wasn't no further than the second or third grade. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't no further along than that. And when I came across it, I was like, "Oh, what is this? You know, I want to see what's up." We had to find batteries. I was watching wrestling a lot during that time. You know, the Undertaker, Stone Cold, Kane, all them. And I used to really like gravitate towards their theme music. I didn't know why. It was just, oh man, the Rock's theme music is fire. I love it. It's got a beat to it. It's got some bass. And so we found the keyboard, put the batteries in there, and my mom started playing one of their songs by ear. And it's just, when I saw her do it, it was as though it was a new language, but I already understood it. And it was trippy, bro. Like, I almost took the keyboard from, like, all right, my turn. And from that moment, it was just like, you know, the simplest thing in the world. But the reason I say, okay, it ain't as simple of an answer as I would have thought, because I was already drawing. And, was I painting and stuff then too? But I was doing art from that perspective already. And yeah, so this was just like a simple transition from that. You know, I was already being creative, and this was just, it was like drawing to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like drawing, but also like playing a video game at the same time.
Right.
So that part I don't really think about as much to tie into that story. But that's what I would say. Literally from that day on, I haven't not done it. You know, it's always been kind of a part of my regime some kind of way.
But when did it get to the point where you was like, okay, I can do something?
When somebody wanted to pay me for a beat,
Okay.
probably straight up, and it was just, I don't even want to say for how much. Oh man, looking back like that, yeah. Ooh wee. But I remember it like yesterday. The very first time I remember who it was, and how badly they wanted something that I thought was sacred to me. I almost didn't want to sell it because I liked it so much. I knew how much it took for me to do it, you know, for me to come across it. But I was like, oh no, somebody else appreciates this just as much, if not more than me, to where they like, man, okay, how much you want this, you want that, you want how much it's gonna cost me or whatever. So I would say that. I was just like, nah, this is a little bit more than just a game here. You know, somebody willing to trade their hard-earned money for something that I just created on a Friday night, just, you know, relaxing or whatever. So, yeah. I don't think I ever had to answer that question like that before, but that's it. That's it right now.
So what is your creative process like? Like, what is a day like for you? Like, do you always have bookings? Is it ever a day where you come in the studio and it's like, you just want to play around on the computer? Like, what do you usually do on a normal day? Like, what's your day like?
I think I can answer both of those. I used to have more days where I was just, just like, I just want to be creative today, you know, and I just work on some stuff. And occasionally that happens, but not enough to where that can be the answer to your question. It's mostly, I guess client-based, if you want to say that, but it's different jobs. You know, it could be just somebody that just literally just want to track some vocals. Somebody who want to track some vocals, like I'm recording them, and they want to get some mixed. So I got to have my mind geared up for all that, because them two different hats in one room. Or somebody that needs some production done, and they might need that done in session. They might need me to do it off site and send it to them later. So it's a lot of different ways that can go or whatever, but that's the most accurate answer. Is I can say, man, it's really mostly like based on a schedule now, and you know what I'm saying, and that's good. I mean, it got to get that way, you know what I'm saying, at some point. But I do, oh man, I appreciate the days when it wasn't like that too, because I mean, I was just enamored. I was just soaking all this new information and figuring out what this button does and how to include this system and how to create this sound, and I can make 1,000 different analogies as it relates to that, but yeah. So those days, I do remember them so vividly, to where like, dang, a little bit like those were the days, But they were necessary, and it's also necessary for me to be where I'm at right now too, with it being more client based and bookings and stuff like that. So I say that's the majority of it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to piggyback off of that, since you said that, your experience, like how much you know now.
Mm-hmm.
Answer this for people that don't know. Did you go to school for this, or like how good you are at what you do? How did you learn as much as you know about music and just, perfecting your craft?
Pressing buttons and seeing what they do, and staying up to 4 o'clock in the morning finding out the answer to it. Like just straight
Gotcha.
up. Like yeah, for me it was trial and error. It was just seeing, like I had an idea to do something in my head, but didn't know exactly how to get there. And I was like, okay, well I know I got a hammer, I got a screwdriver, I got a heat gun. I can figure this out some kind of way with these tools. I know I want this object to be shaped this way, and you just use these plug-ins, these virtual instruments. And so on and so forth. And maybe some hardware gear that you might have to try and figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Just something in my head, it just told me like, okay, I know there's a way to figure out how to do everything that pops up in my head. I just don't know how to do it right now. But so yeah, me personally, my personal journey, I didn't go to school for audio engineering. I went to school, I went to college. It wasn't for this. I wasn't aware of any immediate programs at the time. There were some, but at the time, I'm just saying that looking back. But with the route that I took, I wasn't aware of anywhere I could go to say, oh, I'm interested in audio engineering. I didn't even know what to call it, you know what I'm saying, at the time or whatever. I just knew I liked doing it. But yeah, so you can. I know plenty of people that did do it and they're really good, you know. So I guess that's a case of saying there's more than one way to skin a cat. But with my way, it was just, man, I'm just pressing buttons to see what they do. And but before that, I mean, I had an interest in it, you know, and maybe I can even argue that I already had a gift for it to some degree, to some major degree. So all that tied in together, I guess I could say, yeah, that just worked for me. I wouldn't like say that to say, oh, you know, you should go this way too. It's just whatever direction life's taking you on for you to figure this out. If you know that you're supposed to be doing audio engineering, video work of any kind, editing, mixing, or whatever, like your journey will tell you where to go. You know what I'm saying? But it ain't just one way to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Out of everything that you said you do
Mm-hmm.
on a normal day-to-day basis, is there anything that you don't like doing or any other tasks that you like doing more than the others?
I can say more than the others. It's it's like I have an allegiance to say music production. It's almost as though I have to say that, but because I don't think I'll ever not be able to say that. But what's pushing up on its heels is mixing, is that part of the engineering, because it's almost as creative as production itself to me. Because you're taking something and saying, okay, this is what it is now. I want it to be this. And how do I use these tools in order to get there or get it there? That's a mystery right now, but I have to figure it out, and that makes it more creative to me. The recording process is creative too, especially if you're helping to arrange vocals and stuff like that, and help with notes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's all creative, but I think just the fact that I'm sitting here with nothing or somebody's song, just their song idea that they have, and they're like, man, I need a beat for it. I need you to produce this song for me. It's probably, the percentage of creativity is probably much higher with that. So I kind of just almost am obligated to say that. But for many good reasons though, probably music production.
Gotcha. So let's talk about your passion for this craft. Like, of the many times that I've come in here, you always like upbeat,
Mm-hmm.
in the mood to do what you're doing. Cause I know you love doing it. So
Yeah.
can you just describe, like, maybe it's some kind of habits you have, eating, working out, I don't know, exercising, that keeps you just in the mood to work and just upbeat and just, lively?
Yeah.
Is it a trick to being like that every day?
You hit on some, to some extent, maybe it's trying to be as active as possible. I try to, if I can, if my schedule for the day allows, I love to be able to, as I say, sneak in the gym. So I mean, I don't care if I got 25 minutes. I'm gonna go in there and do something and come on back. And I say that, and maybe this is really valuable information for people who, in this world, I have to sit and think. Some of these days I'm doing 10 and 11-hour sessions. That's a lot of sitting down. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I got to get moving at least for them 30 minutes before the session started. And I just noticed, some things going on like with my health as well. It hadn't happened recently. It was a while back because I've been on this routine for a while, and it was a direct result of me I'm just like this all day. just on the computer. Number one, you're looking at a computer screen, you don't know what it is doing to your eyes. I was getting headaches from it, which, I mean, I could probably still be getting hit. I'm still running the 10-hour sessions. But beforehand, I'm just making sure, just go and move, get your blood flowing. And that's probably, I only probably answer that because you made me think of it, and for good reason. When you was like, oh, you doing anything like that, exercising or whatever. But the real, probably more technical, and maybe even more psychological answer to it is that I want to see how much better I can get than I was the day before. And it sounds really cliche to say it like that, but literally every single day I'm listening to new music that came out. And most of the days I feel with people that have done something, and it's so good that I'm thinking, dang, I wish I would have thought of that. Or I wish I would have mixed that song and it sounded this good. They got that bass hitting just right on there. What do they do with that vocal? You know what I'm saying? I might really already be competing with them, but it's some small intricate thing about that mix that I might listen to, just streaming music or whatever. Especially by somebody who's already like seasoned and doing well and maybe signed, for like a better words there, and just doing well. Somebody who's already proven themselves as an artist who has a really good engineer, a really good producer with them, and they just pumping out some real good ideas. It just, I can't say it fuels me necessarily, but it does. If nothing else, I listen to it and I think like, dang, I should at least be operating on this optimal level. And I might be. You know what I'm saying? But it's just something about me hearing something new that I think is really good. It pushes me to want to continue to try to get to that level. So each session is a new opportunity for me to figure out how to track vocals a little bit differently. Maybe I use this microphone. Maybe I use this compressor. Maybe I don't. Maybe I run straight in. It's 1,000 different options there too. But I think even more so than the previous answers I just gave you is probably more like I want to see how much better I can get each day. And, and approaching each session with, I don't try to approach it with, a lot of joy necessarily, but I guess you choose to be joyful. But in that case, I'm kind of more, I don't have a choice to. Like, I'm already crunk about this because it's another opportunity for me to see, like, okay, what am I going to figure out today? You know what I'm saying? Or am I going to get the problem I had yesterday right today? And stuff like that. So I think that's probably the biggest part of the answer.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How much have you invested in your career? And you don't have to answer this if you don't want. It's up to you. You know what I'm saying? But like, as far as your studio, like what's behind you, like how much have you put into your studio?
What's behind me, what's behind you, was in some other rooms, was been given away, gotten rid of that I can't use no more, man. I don't know, honestly. I've counted it before, but it's been years since I've just off the top of my head saying, oh yeah, this piece costs this much, this piece costs that much.
Give me some ballpark, if you had to say just off the top of your head.
I mean, off the top of your head, over the years, I mean, and this might not be big to some people, but totally independent, man. I mean, I'm looking at least, and I might be selling it short. I mean, you start off at least thinking 30 grand, just to figure stuff out. And somebody might come in here after seeing me say that and look around and go, oh, this don't look like 30 grand. Or they might, but you got to consider the stuff that I have had to get what I have now too, and then also software. That's a big part of it I had never really considered, because I see a need for something to make a vocal sound better or a new program altogether, and I just get it because I need it, but I don't really think like, oh man, that's a part of the inventory here, because I don't see it as an object I can hold. Like I can go grab that guitar and say, oh yeah, I paid about such and such for this or whatever, but yeah, with software, that's a silent one. Yeah, because you're going to keep on having to pay for it for real, like upgrading stuff, and when something new come out or something ain't really in style no more and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's probably what I say. And that might be just a starter answer for you, really, because, and that's a big thing of it too, bro. It's like whenever I see a need to get something, and when I say a need, I'm just like, okay, there's a problem I'm trying to solve, or there's some inkling that I have that if I do include this thing, this hardware piece or this piece of software, it's going to make things better.
It's an investment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if I'm answering that question, like when I told you I'm listening to some music that I stream, I'm like, dang, how they get that vocal to sound like that? And I'm thinking this one new little piece that I can add or help me get there, it's like nothing. Like I don't overthink it, nothing like that. I do enough research. I probably research it for 24 solid hours. Maybe 48 sometimes, but after then I'm like, man, what are you thinking about? Like this is gonna make things better, make it back in a few days, and then be able to, it'll help you. It'll either help make your workflow easier, or it'll make your sound quality better.
Exactly.
And what am I thinking about if it's going to do that? And if I, throughout my research of looking at this new product or hardware piece, software piece, if I can conclude, okay, yeah, this is going to make things like insurmountably like just better, then yeah, that stuff, especially with software, it'll sneak you.
Yeah.
It'll sneak you.
Do you have anything that is like a prized possession or your most favorite piece of gear that's in your studio? Something that means a lot to you?
The first thing to come to mind is and I don't know if this is the real answer, but right now, I can at least say for right now, it's the fader port. And it's, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it's just what's sitting over here with the faders on it. I had the first model of it that came out, and it was just a one-channel fader port, and you switch between different channels using buttons. Like say, cause see what it emulates, for those who may or may not know, is when you think music studio, especially back in the day, you walk in the studio and it's got this big old SSL board in the room, or Neve, or whatever else, the API, and it's just like anywhere between 20, 30 channels up to 70 or 80 channels. And we talking something that costs, man, you talking about how much does something cost. That was the studio. And it emulates that without you having to get that, but it's only a controller. And so the reason I went through that whole spiel to say that is because to some extent, I do like having some sort of hardware that's included in my workflow. So not just all, laptop and software, which that works just fine. But I've always at least had something that I'm, tweaking, some preamp that's got tubes in it that I'm replacing every now and again or something. So having those those faders on the controller, it just gives you that feel for it. So I found that if I mix something and it's mixed just off of the mouse or the trackpad or whatever, I don't know. I don't know if it comes out. I don't know if I understand sound as well when I'm doing that, as opposed to having something. I'm looking at the screen, but my hands are also moving in some kind of way. So having that controller, I think it helped me out so much. And I'm not gonna lie and say, oh, it just made the sound so much better. No, not necessarily, but maybe it helped me to get a better mix a little bit faster. Maybe that's what it is. So, yeah, that was another one I overthought for 48 hours, and I just went on ahead and got it. Yeah, like real talk. I definitely remember that.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
So what do you say to an upcoming producer or engineer and they maybe don't see in their minds how they'll ever be able to afford the gear that they think they need to become a great producer or engineer? Or like what kind of advice can you give to them if they feel like they stuck?
I used to think the same thing. I promise you I did. And I hated it because I used to say something to a lot of my partners years ago. I'm like, dang, man, but if I just had the such and such that they had, man, I'd be competing with them for real then. But I already was. That's the thing. That's the thing I have to say to them is that me not having that which I knew was available to a lot of people, and I saw it gave them a better sound on the way in, if they could afford a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 preamp. And I did. That was just outrageous. That was astronomical to me. And I couldn't never even see myself doing that or didn't have a way to do it. I look at that and say, man, dang, man, but only if I had it. But you know what it was doing? The whole time it was forcing me to get better with what I had. And it made me, I think that made me a lot better, especially during those seasons and during those years, is because I could hear with my ears that I was missing something. I was still developing and still am. What am I saying was? But I knew how much I needed to reach, or to what degree I needed to reach in order to say that I was competing. And it made me take the $2 I had and stretch it as far as somebody who had $20. You know what I'm saying? And it made me figure out, no, I gotta make this vocal sound really good or a lot better than it does, even though I don't have that preamp and those compressors running on the way in and and those processors and stuff that a lot of people had. So, man, you just, as long as you're passionate about it, and it's as simple as answer, I know it sounds cliche, as long as you're passionate about this stuff, bro, you gonna figure it out. You know what I'm saying? 1,000%.
For sure. So what do you feel like is your greatest accomplishment so far in your career?
Man, two-part answer. I know in some cases when some people ask me that, I'm almost obligated. I kind of have to say like, oh yeah, I got a placement with Demi Lovato. And there is something to that. I won't say it as though it's like me being like full of myself or whatever by saying that. uh, I don't know. The sum to that is that in this age of, I guess, partnerships, a lot of we collaborate so much. You and I are collaborating right now. You know what I'm saying? It's commonplace for you to work on a song, even just down to that focal point, and you're not the only one producing on the record. You bring what you bring to it. You pass the baton on a relay race to the next person. That person is really good at drums, and you're good at playing keys, and the other person is good at bass. And now you're a part of this production. And it wouldn't have been odd or off or less than it at all for me to say, oh yeah, I co-produced that record. But on that particular song, I did a song for Jeezy, and it's got Lil Duval and Demi Lovato on it. RL wrote a lot on that record, and he and I worked a good bit on that record with Duval too. And then boom, just one day you pop up and Demi Lovato is on it. So I can't really take any credit for that. That was just like, oh snap, seriously, her, she's on. But to say that the part of the relay race, because I just named a whole bunch of creative people, but the part of that relay race by which I held a baton, I was the only person who produced on that record. And that does, like, when I look back at it, I'm like, no, that's quite a, feat. I'm really proud of that and thankful for it. But that's just the answer I give somebody. They're like, oh, what do? You do production? Have you worked with anybody I might know? And I have to kind of say it. But to really answer your question, just straight up me and you talking, it's my first EP that I put together. I don't know if I just told a lapel up just there in the mic. But it's my first one because I don't know, it was much scarier than getting a placement with Jeezy and Demi Lovato and Lil Duval and even RL. It was much more frightening. I didn't know what was around the corner, what it took to put it together, how people would respond to that. I knew people would respond to a placement. Like, oh man, it's so good. I'm so proud of you. I always knew you, But with, you just don't know. It's 1,000 different things somebody can say, like, this is my work, my 7-song EP, let me know what y'all think or whatever. But looking back at it, how my team and I worked together to put that out with Vision Fuel and what all went into that, preparing the visuals and advertising and stuff like that. It's called Yes Ma'am. That's the name of the EP. And it shows a lot. It shows a lot about what space I was in during that time and how much growth I was going through at that time. So the real answer to you, like just me talking to somebody I know I can just rap with, that would be the answer right there. I'm probably most proud of that because that made the next EP easy. That made the next project easy. That made the deluxe easy. It's making the next thing easy. And not easy, but I don't have the same fears about releasing and putting together a body of work as I did prior to doing that. You know what I'm saying? So it was monumental.
Gotcha. How can you explain how you got to the point where you got those placements? Was it something special that you did marketing-wise, or how did you get that placement? How did that happen? How did it come about?
That right there, handshakes, dog. It's the same age-old regime of it ain't what you know to you know, and you hear that and you just like, man, I've heard that before, man. You holding your information on me, and you're telling me how to really get to it, but you just have to some extent. I know we got the internet and stuff, and we got social media, and once that popped off, people was like, oh man, you could just DM somebody or go viral, and that's just it. And yeah, to some extent, yeah, that's a good portion of percentage of it, but for my particular answers, somebody could even know me through, social media, have seen a lot of my material or content or whatever, but it ain't until we get in a room together and I'm able to either show them, it's by look almost, if the first time they see me is actually in a studio. But we're just gonna keep it real and keep this up, man.
I sure looked up there like the
dang. Well, just tell them I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna be right back. No, don't even cut it, man. Don't even cut it. Boom. There we go. And we back. Yeah. M5 on the screen. We can talk about that in a minute too.
Oh, for sure.
But god dang, it ain't so much that is really I really came to find out, like, so it could be in studio and it'd be great if that happens. But also it could be just out, like at an event. You went to a performance and somebody who you've kind of been in contact with is there, or maybe somebody introduces you to somebody. Maybe that helps because you worked for that first relationship and then they slingshot you into somebody else and it just keeps on materializing. And then at that point, you just got to be as genuine of a person, looking them square in their eyes and they see you and be like, oh man, okay, well this person trusts him, then cool, maybe I'll give him a shot, or I can just see, I can look at him, the handshake was real. But really, like I said, if you get a chance to prove yourself in studio, like on the field, and build off of that, that's the biggest thing. But a lot of stuff, I will say this to kind of hone all that in. It was a lot of times I was invited to events and maybe even sessions. And for whatever odd reason, I did not want to go. And this is not, I just didn't want to go. This is, man, I'm dog tired. I just had a full day. I ran 3 sessions, or I've been working all week. This is my day off. I plan to just kick back and watch a show on Netflix or something. And then now I get a call like, such and such, you want me to go to this place with you or whatever? I don't want to go. Every time that was like at its peak, when I really, really didn't want to go somewhere, it ended up being beneficial along these lines.
That's how it always is.
I never heard anybody else even side with me on that or say that, bro. Like, and I always look back and be like, dang, aren't you glad you went? Like, I'm really glad that I pushed through that, But if it's like a place I really just want to go or plan to go already throughout the week, and we go to an event or whatever, I probably know everybody there already. We just have a good time, and I just go back to my studio. But yeah, that is worth saying right there. It's just it's something about it. I just can't. So whenever I really don't want to go somewhere now, I psych myself out and want to go because I'm like, no, this must mean something. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, the biggest thing, man, I swear, I know, like an answer somebody would probably want me to give, dog, is just work hard and just keep putting out more content, and you do that. Do not cease that, but it's something you have to still shake hands, slap palms, or some fist bump them, or something, whatever you got to do, man. You got to be in a room with somebody that actually like feed off of them, let them feed off of you energetically, and actually have real conversations with them, or just a real good, straightforward, firm first time meeting with them or whatever, and then things will flow from there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you from Birmingham, Alabama, and you moved to Atlanta.
Yeah.
So was that something that brought you this way, other than the normal cliche answer that, this is the music capital of the South? But
Yeah.
what prompts you, like, I'm going to go ahead and move, or what, put you in a position to move here?
For probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 years, Jesus, 5. Man, well, I say 4. That's safer. If not every week, every other week, I was driving over here for something. And that's not the real answer. It's just a portion of it. Through me driving over here, or from me driving over here so often, for something, the smallest of events to the biggest of events, to a studio session or whatever, whatever it might be, I was accumulating those relationships, and I was building off of something to where I had to build up enough confidence through all of that, because it was one of the scariest things I've done. Because I packed up everything and I ain't leave a pair of shoes behind. Like I just, and I'm just saying, and I'll say that because I really just wanted to commit to it and give it a shot. Whether I fly or fall, I won't be able to say, oh, I wonder if I would have did it this way. No, I did it this way, that way, and the other way, and everything. I maximized that move, man. And but I wasn't able to just up and do it. I seen some people do it, and they have been literally, they just was just to the wall. They just gave it just at the drop of a dime. I was a bit more strategic with my move, but I will say that I did accumulate a bunch of those relationships to where I was just like, okay, maybe it's safe to go now. And it was still frightening, just considering that you didn't know what was around the corner. Like I could have fallen instead of flown. But yeah, that was probably the 2-part answer where I could say, like, yeah, I was already coming here, but then in me coming here so much, I did meet some like really phenomenal people and build some really good relationships over time that gave me that, I don't want to say almost confidence, but, green light, saying, okay, man, it's time, just go ahead and do it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
What do you listen to when you get in the car? What you listen to right now?
Man, as R&B as I am, I probably listen to as much rap as anybody can listen to, man. I don't know why. But really, like, some go-to, like, if I'm going through my phone before I pull off, because I don't like to do it while I'm driving no more. I probably, and I can't figure out nothing to listen to, I'll probably end up landing on Young Dolph, to be honest. I listen to a lot of Larry June, too. And there's a bit of similarities with their messages that I think that I can just tolerate, even if I'm not in the mood to hearing the music. It's like, okay, if I'm gonna listen to anything, I'll hear that right now, or whatever. But other than that, Because I'm not one of those people that's gonna answer that question and say, "Oh, I listen to everything." Then you call out a genre I've never heard of, and no, okay, well, I don't listen to everything, you know. But beyond that, yeah, I do study, and I'm more so studying when I'm doing this. It's not as like much of a listening experience when I go back and listen to a lot of what I would label as the quintessential era of R&B. And that's a little arguable for some people, but I would say that's 90s and early 2000s music. But I do have my own personal playlists of that music, of different types of it, the up tempos, mid tempos, the slow jams, and all that that I listen to, and I'm mostly studying when I listen to that. But you know, I listen to a lot. I can't say, oh, I listen to everything, but I listen to alternative, the indie pop. That's one of my favorite genres of stuff to listen to, especially alternative music. And that's not saying like, oh, necessarily rock or metal or whatever. It's literally like its own genre, and maybe subgenre in some ways. But that's probably, by them being the things that popped up in my head first, that's probably the best answer I can give you. Yeah.
Who's the greatest music artist of all time?
Ooh, next question, please. Dang. Oh, man. Oh, can I
Let's say
phone?
R&B to just narrow it down.
Ah, it's still terrifying, man. Can I phone a friend? Dang. Music artist. Yeah, that's tough.
And we're going to say raw talent. We ain't going to say selling. We're going to say narrow it down to just raw.
Woo! All right, cool. You helped it. You helped the show. You kept the show moving, man. This is good. Yeah, and this I can't be argued about this. I'm gonna say Whitney Houston. She's, oh man, you know, I hate she ain't with her still. I would love to meet her and just ask her a few questions, because the reason I'm saying this is because there are some songs of hers that I remember hearing. My mama used to play them when we were in the car when I was younger. A kid, yeah. So I'm giving you this answer from almost conception type. And I could hear, for like maybe how raw it was. When I say how raw, I mean like it wasn't too much. She had a reverb on her voice, and that was it. They closed the door to the booth and just let her. They had to just let her do a thing, let her go. But I could hear, especially during that time. I think we had processors, we as in people, during that time, the way you can adjust notes and stuff like that and do some kind of pitch correction. You know, like how we got auto tune and stuff now. But I know we ain't have it like that around her time. And you can go back and you can listen to them records that she did, and it's a few of them, bro. Like, I know using the word perfect is touchy, but she was perfect on a lot of them records, dog. Like, especially some of the live stuff I've heard her sing too. And you see her, and I'm looking at her singing, and I'm like, man, nah, she ain't missed a note yet. And she done projected up here and came down here and did a run that I can't even do, no matter how hard I tried. Yeah. So that's raw talent. I probably, yeah. You helped me answer that question right there. That's the one, though.
Gotcha.
That's the one.
So we got about 13 minutes before we fill this
Let's
SD
go.
card up. So we're going to get off topic of music and go to your other hobbies and other stuff that you're into.
Okay.
Because around your studio, you got cars,
There's plenty of.
a lot of musical instruments.
Yeah.
And, you know, I watched a few videos with you of like houses and stuff, just, you know, different interests you have. So talk about how you got into cars, liking cars.
All right, so cars, man. Whew. I don't know why. My mama had to have known something when I was young, because this started before I even got memories to remember it. Some stories my grandma had to tell me. They remember me as a baby just sitting in the middle of the kitchen floor, because it was a flat surface, it wasn't carpet, and I have all these Hot Wheels cars and maybe some Matchbox joints too, but definitely Hot Wheels. And just I'll be creating a city worth of traffic almost in my head, you know, with the tiles and the floor and all that or whatever. And they knew that I wasn't finna bother nobody for at least 2-3 hours. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what was going through my mind at that time. I can maybe tell what that developed to later on, but I mean, from that moment on, it's just been something that's fascinating about it. But all from a design perspective and from an engineering perspective. And when I say that, I'm not just talking about audio engineering, just engineering, period. It's solving problems. You know, the car solved a problem for humanity, you know what I'm saying, on transportation. And now it's still solving problems because, all right, cool, we got issues like, you know, what the emissions are and stuff like that. All right, cool. Now we're finna start doing EVs and stuff like that. Like, I just see so many like practical things with the automobile. It's such a place of like inside the cabin of your car is like a place of freedom. You get in that mug and you can go where, well, almost everywhere you go. You can't drive to Italy from here, but you know, you can just go where you need to go, take care of your business. So it's so much more beyond just the design, but the design alone and the powertrain and all that kind of stuff is just always fascinating. I can't tell you the first moment where it started, like I can do a music or nothing like that. It's just kind of always been there. You know what I'm saying? It's just something I won't ever not be fascinated by it. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe, yeah, no, I won't. I was about to say, once we totally switch over to not having like actual engines and stuff anymore, I just wonder what that'll look like. But it'll still be something fascinating about it, I'm sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Money is not an issue.
Uh-huh.
What car do you go buy?
The Koenigsegg Agera. So you don't hear many people say that.
I don't know what that is.
And maybe you will. So it's a Swedish car maker, car company. And they, I mean, well, like much of the high-end, luxury, high-performance joint supercars, if you will, they're crafted. You know, it's somebody actual hand working on the engine and stuff like that. But I think the entire body is like that. They don't produce as many cars. It's a lot more, what you call it, exclusive. If you're able to get on a list to get one or either buy one from somebody else that's selling it or whatever. But yeah. I won't even go into all that. I ain't gonna geek out right now today. We said we got probably 11 more minutes. But yeah, just looking into how much goes into their cars, and they're astronomical. That's why you had to say if money wasn't an issue. They're astronomical in price. So considering that too, that's the best answer to that question. Bar none.
Gotcha. And then I kind of think I know the answer to this question. You know, we've looked at videos of like large houses and stuff together while we were in the studio working together and stuff. But
Yeah.
just kind of talk about like, you know, I'm assuming it's for motivational purposes, but also it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Just looking at the house and stuff. So can you speak on that? Just
Boom.
You know, what you get out of that?
Man, honestly, this another answer I probably ain't really go far enough into. But man, when people used to ask me when I was a kid what I wanted to be when I grew up, I wouldn't say doctor, lawyer, engineer. I would say architect. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know why. You know, I knew. When I say I didn't know why, I didn't really like have superlative, fantasy about being an architect necessarily, but I just liked the design of buildings. So it still came down to an artistic and design element, even though now I know being an architect is far more than just that. You know, you have to be a bunch of other things to be a successful architect, but that's really the biggest thing. I mean, I appreciate seeing like, you know, the house tour. Man, me and my mama used to go to them. Dang, man, mama, you getting the whole interview. Yeah, I ain't think about this. We used to go to Greystone in the Ham off 280 on the open houses on Sundays and just walk through them. And that was just, I didn't know these houses existed. You know, sitting behind these gates and junk, man. These 8, 10 bedroom houses and stuff. These big old doors. You got the lean on the open and all this. So maybe all of that kind of stuck with me to some extent. And I didn't really think about it like that. But yeah. I think it's the architecture thing. 'Cause I still look up a whole lot of architecture stuff, just learning what's going on, what's being built, what mega projects there are, blah, blah, blah. And houses are kind of similar to that to me because I'm looking at it like, dang, how did they construct this? It's cantilever design and, you know, all this. So I done picked up on a lot of the lingo from looking at that and being interested in it over the years. But I wouldn't, even still, like even all the money in the world question, even if you say, okay, you got, I know this would be a controversial thing. You got X amount to spend on this, X amount to spend on that. I'm probably going to look at the car first, honestly. Yeah. You say it's stupid, whatever. It's not smart investment, whatever. It'll be smart to invest in that Koenigsegg. I tell you that, because that price ain't coming down. It might go up, actually. So, yeah. Yeah, that's it.
So we all saw the Cat Williams interview.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch it in its entirety?
Yeah. I'm almost ashamed to say I watched it twice. I did.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you, of course, we don't know what of that was true or not. All we can go off is what the parties that were mentioned said, but what do you think about the situation in general?
Well, even along what you just said, it's a lot of different, the reason I watched it twice, a lot of different elements that fascinated me, and I wanted to go back and peep it. My bad, y'all. Y'all be all right.
Good.
One of them was how convincing he seemed with what, and I don't mean as a generalized statement, I'm talking about whatever his experience might be with, you know, who he talked about. It just, I know, you deal with, okay, man, but he is an actor. What if he's just doing a really good acting job or whatever? But he did seem as though he's had some sort of a unfavorable experience with some people. And him, the way he conveyed it, I was just like, man, I don't know nothing about what he owned, but, he seemed like he really has experienced some stuff that kind of jarred him or whatever. So I can at least say that much about it for sure. Yeah, I will say that.
So
Yeah.
what do you feel about, when I listen to rap too, and a lot of it is just about shooting and sex.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you feel about just the state of hip hop? We're gonna exclude R&B from this conversation because that's a different topic. But what do you feel about just the subject matter of rap music at this time right now?
I think, man, real answer, I don't think it's necessarily just about music. I think that's kind of got a little bit to do with just where you are before you go in the studio. You know what I'm saying? And not per artist. I'm just saying on a broad scale. If you say we, it's a lot that's going on that hasn't been so, I don't want to say promoted, but so commonplace in the years before that it does seem as though it's, that it is more commonplace now. And it's just coming out through the music. Of course, I mean, the thing about it that's interesting, and this is the best way I can answer it, is I do take some kind of actual data from people. I like to listen to people talk when barbershop talk comes up. And it has its place, of course, but I think that it's such, I don't want to say repetitive, but it's a number of artists that have those same messages, whether it's with that one subject or another, and to a lot of actual people, and the people matter, because we're selling to them. They're the demographic that we're aiming for. They're kind of, I think people in general, the common person, they're kind of getting a little exhausted of just the same subject. And if nothing else, that's something for us to kind of look into, even with the music that I produce from time to time. Maybe I make a new suggestion in studio or something. Why don't we find a different way to word this? Little stuff like that might help or whatever, because, I mean, at the end of the day, we're selling a product to them. And if it is kind of getting consistent for them and a little repetitive, some has to be switched up. But I mean, who am I to say whether or not, that's right or wrong? I mean, I will chime in on saying like, talking about death and all that, especially, man, coming from where we come from, that type of stuff happens an awful lot. And, if you see people being affected by it, and the music has some portion of, to do with how affected you are. Or how affected you are by what you listen to or whatever. And I would argue it does. In a real perspective, you saying like, people are actually going out and doing some of these things or whatever. So, wonder if you can find out what type of music, everybody listens to before they go and, and commit something. So from that perspective, I will give you a hardcore opinion and say, it's obviously not good. But I think maybe even if that is our only message, just speaking generally, there might be some different ways that we can deliver the message. To kind of, I don't know, if nothing else, just switch it up,
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
All right, so we done ran out of time.
Okay.
If somebody want to work with you, how would they go about finding you or booking you?
Instagram for sure. I do frequent checking my Instagram. So you can go to my Instagram, Brian B. Flat Cook, Brian with an I, all the way straight through. Or you can go to brianbflatcook.com. That actually works out really well. Them the best two answers to that, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, man, we're going to have to do a part 2, bro, because I ain't even get to...
We didn't get to much,
That was just like the beginning, for real, and it's been like 40 minutes.
Dang.
So
we've been talking for 18, 20 minutes, man.
We're going to have to do a part 2, for sure.
Done deal. Count on it.
Appreciate you, bro.
Word up. Nah, same here, bro. I appreciate you, dog.
All right, for sure.